They are the most vulnerable and desperate of patients.
And a Channel 4 I-Team investigation is about to reveal what happened to them inside the walls of a state mental institution.
Well, this number may sum it up. Our investigation found in the past 3 years, 65 disciplinary actions have been taken. Employees either fired, suspended, or disciplined for abuse, neglect, or mistreatment of patients or failing to manage patients at risk. What we've uncovered are cases of patients being mistreated, touched sexually, and one patient left alone long enough to take his own life. This is how the family of Cody Skelton likes to remember him, a talented bass player hamming it up on a public access channel. But Cody also had a different side, and last November, the mental illness that Cody had struggled with his entire life took over once again.
Well, he was in an uncontrollable state. He was just losing it.
Threatening to harm himself, Cody was first taken to the nearest hospital on November 27th, according to his family. They don't know why, but Cody was then sent to the Middle Tennessee Mental Health Institute. Like so many of the patients here, Cody didn't have insurance, and the institution was the last resort for him to get help.
And I thought, fantastic, thank goodness. The people, thank goodness that he's there at the hospital. There'll be people there, professionals, they'll be able to look after him and take care of him.
On the morning of November 29th, Cody drowned himself inside the state institution.
I just want to know what happened.
It's a question that can be asked not only about Cody's death. How is it other mentally ill patients can be left alone for almost an hour? How could another patient be touched sexually by a nurse? Or how a patient who suffered from sexual abuse could be doused with a trash can of water by another nurse? The Channel 4 I-Team found all that and more happening to mentally ill patients in a facility run by the state. It's all something the CEO of the Institute doesn't want to talk about. Why won't you talk to me about what happened to the patients here?
If they can't take care of him, they can't take care of the others. It scares you.
Cody's autopsy, which we obtained through public records requests, explains his terrible death. Cause of death, drowning. Manner of death, suicide. The autopsy shows Cody secured his head inside an overflowing toilet and drowned himself. A bedsheet secured the bathroom door shut. Those terrible details are important to know, Cody's family says, because it shows Cody was unmonitored long enough to plan and pull off an elaborate death.
Sometimes I feel angry, sometimes I feel confused, but mostly I just want to know what happened.
The institution will not release to Cody's family or to the Channel 4 I-Team their internal investigation into his death or explain how often Cody was monitored. But their own internal policies for handling management of patients at risk states when a patient is placed on suicide precautions, the patient shall be monitored constantly and the bathroom should be locked at all times. Again, the institution won't say if they deemed Cody suicidal, but remember, just 2 days earlier, he threatened to harm himself.
Cody needed help.
And internal disciplinary records obtained by the Channel 4 I-Team raise serious questions of how other patients were treated. One report states a nurse straddled a male patient and took his hands and rubbed them on her chest, thighs, and back. The nurse denied doing it, but admitted she kissed him and was suspended. Yet just 4 months later, that same nurse was fired for failing to check on 2 patients for nearly an hour, patients who were supposed to be under intense observation. Then there's this nurse, suspended for pulling on a female patient's arms to get her out of bed, and then dumping a trash can of water on the patient's head. The report reads the nurse's actions had the potential to re-traumatize the patient with a history of physical and sexual abuse. And then there's this report of another nurse suspended when she and her patient were found having their hands around the other's shoulders and neck area. At the end of the encounter, the patient was observed to be lying on the floor. Miss Gilligan? After the CEO of the state institution, Candace Gilligan, refused our repeated requests for an on-camera interview, we went to the institute to get answers. I wanted to speak to you about the cases of the patients here. Ma'am, please let me talk to you about what happened.
Talk to you, sorry.
Why won't you talk to me about what happened to the patients here? A spokesman for the State Department of Mental Health, which oversees the institution, said in an email, quote, "The security of patients and staff are a great concern, and patient abuse is something we take very seriously." As for Cody's family, they've now hired an attorney, hoping to force the state to produce answers.
The family has a lot of questions about the care he received.
And try to come to terms with the violent end to their loved one's life.
I miss him. I want my brother back. I want my brother back.
Well, the photographs you're about to see were taken by a former employee of the Middle Tennessee Mental Health Institute from inside the facility. We've been investigating cases of patient neglect there, including the recent death of a patient. And now, former employees are coming forward to say there's a reason some patients haven't been checked on, because the people assigned to watch them were asleep.
Oh, wow, that's terrible.
Oh, wow. I'm not sure I want to see this.
Steve Burke is among the taxpayers in Davidson County who we showed these pictures to, and their reactions were all the same.
You got to be kidding me.
Photographs of employees paid by the state not just nodding off, but sleeping. I mean, really sleeping.
And this one right here looked like he is really enjoying his nap at work. That's terrible.
And they're sleeping inside the Middle Tennessee Mental Health Institution, assigned to watch over, care for, and guard some of the most vulnerable patients in the state's care. Employees like this registered nurse out cold, right at a nurse's station. There's no question where this psychiatric tech is taking a snooze while on the job. What better place than, again, right there at the nurse's station?
I mean, I wish I could get paid to sleep too.
And they go on and on. Another psychiatric tech asleep. Another psychiatric tech asleep.
It's lazy. I mean, that's all I can say.
And while these three are not responsible for anyone's lives, you still paid their salaries. Here are 3 photographs of housekeepers sleeping in all different parts of the institute. But this guy was responsible for lives because he was a security guard. Here he is sleeping inside, and his personnel file shows he was also busted for sleeping outside in a security vehicle while on duty in 2007, and that's when he admitted he had a sleeping disorder.
Anything could be happening, and they're asleep on their job.
And there's more. Disciplinary actions obtained through a public records request by the Channel 4i team show that the state is well aware of the problem. Employee after employee after employee, all cited for sleeping on the job. And none of these people disciplined are the ones captured in these photographs. Additional employees assigned to watch over patients who needed intensive observation or constant observation, disciplined for falling asleep. Do you worry about the safety of the patients there right now?
Yes.
Michael Rhodes and Tyler Nelson are 2 recent employees of the Institute who agreed, independent of each other, to speak to the Channel 4i team about what they say these photographs captured.
It's just a culture of irresponsibility and negligence.
Every night was on that unit, I can hear him down there snoring, like you can hear him snoring loudly from way up at the desk.
And both say there's such a problem with employees sleeping that some have found a place to hide out of range of the cameras that monitor the hallways. Rhodes even drew for us what a hallway looks like and the small alcoves where he says employees hide in order to sleep and not get caught by the cameras.
So they get in there and lean up against the patient's door in a chair, and the cameras, they're out of view of the camera.
There are some employees that will find a good hiding spot. They'll go into the employee break room and sleep.
Why won't you talk to me about what happened to the patients here? After our first attempts to interview both the CEO of the institution and the commissioner of the State Department of Mental Health, we again asked for an interview and were again denied. But a state spokesman did confirm these photographs are of either former or current state employees or contract employees paid by the state. And that in this woman's case, quote, MTMHI will take appropriate action to follow up to remind techs that they must be alert while on duty.
We started looking into this when accused killer Kenneth Malady escaped from a group home in July. Police say he beat up a store clerk while on the run. But we found his case wasn't unique, and tonight we're asking, why are many of these potentially violent people being released into neighborhoods? Metro Police Sergeant Morgan Ford still has the scars.
I was very fortunate that I didn't lose consciousness, but if I had, it could have been life-threatening.
She says she might not be alive today if she didn't call for backup on the day she tried to capture mental patient Sylvia Black.
She grabbed me by the top of my head and got a handful of my hair, and we all went down to the ground. She outweighed me by about 150 pounds. So the first thing I did was touch my face, and I felt a large knot and blood coming out of my eye.
A court decided Black was insane when she attacked Sergeant Ford and sent her to the Middle Tennessee Mental Health Institute. But the institute released her to a group home, and she escaped twice.
I would, be leery of anybody that has any kind of encounter with her.
And our Channel 4 I-Team investigation found she's not the only one to walk away. Prosecutors say this system does allow dangerous people to get back on the street.
You cannot monitor them enough.
The Channel 4 I-Team uncovered in just the last year at least 6 mental patients have walked away from care homes chosen for them by the Middle Tennessee Mental Health Institute after being found not guilty by reason of insanity of a crime. At least one of them released was an accused murderer, and 4 of those 6 patients are accused of assaulting someone after walking away from their group home. And this prosecutor says there's more.
We have here in Davidson County 1 or more individuals who many years ago have committed homicides and have been found not guilty by reason of insanity. 1 or 2 have been released to a group home. We walk around with our fingers crossed every day that there's not going to be, a recurrence.
The Channel 4 I-Team reviewed 28 case files of people found not guilty by reason of insanity in Nashville courts since 2010. 25 went to the Middle Tennessee Mental Health Institute for treatment. Only 7 of those patients are still in the institution, according to their court records. The rest were released, put in the care of family and friends, or sent to live in a group home. There are at least 45 mental health care homes in Davidson County alone. The state tells us 27 of those are used for patients found not guilty of a crime by reason of insanity. Most of them are in the middle of neighborhoods with no signs and no warning given to neighbors about who could be living there. Amina O'Day didn't know she lived on the same Antioch street as an accused murderer and paranoid schizophrenic until Kenneth Malady went missing in July. Malady was charged with stabbing his mother to death with a pocket knife and gouging his stepfather's eyes, but a court found him not guilty of the murder by reason of insanity. He ended up in O'Day's neighborhood.
If that happens, as it did, I think we had a right to be notified.
In July, Malady left Ann's care home and went on the run for days. Police say he beat up a store clerk and threatened to kill the park ranger who finally caught him, about 40 miles away in Marshall County.
I know that he's capable of murder. He killed his own mother, and he attempted to kill our stepfather as well.
Malady's own sister thought he would be in the Middle Tennessee Mental Health Institute for good until she learned he had been sent to live in a home in the middle of Antioch.
To me, he should never have been considered a candidate for the furlough program.
The operators of Ann's care home told an appeals court Malady would be supervised around the clock. So how is it Malady and these 5 other patients walked away from their group homes? We took our findings to Commissioner Doug Varney of the Department of Mental Health, which oversees the institution.
These are not secure facilities. They're not locked facilities. Again, if that was required, they wouldn't be discharged from the hospital. They would be kept in the hospital, which is a more secure facility.
Then why are violent people like Kenneth Malady being placed in the community in a group home?
Yeah. It's determined by a court and or a jury that these people were not guilty of any crime because of their mental illness.
Varney says institutionalized patients are only released into care homes when their doctors determine they are stable, and those patients are released with a plan for continuing mental care. But remember Sylvia Black, charged with beating up the police officer? Even after she walked away from her care home once, the institute sent her back. She left again and has been picked up by police 9 times since the attack on the officer.